Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Taiwan Talk. I'm Hope Go. I've brought in my colleague Jacob Ingram this week to help me navigate a topic I'm not too familiar with, heavy metal music, which has become part of the Taiwan Culture in Europe program undertaken by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Ministry of Culture. So Jake, tell me about the local metal music scene.
Sure. So Taiwan's metal scene is quite vibrant and diverse, but it didn't start out that way. So it really began to take shape in the 1990s and early 2000s, when small underground venues and indie record labels started supporting heavier music. So we had early bands like Assaasin, They were among the pioneers of Taiwanese metal. They started covering songs from Western metal bands like Tala until they started developing their own sound and writing their own music. By the mid-1990s, Chthonic, Shanling, formed. We all know who they are. They're one of the first to blend black and death metal sound with traditional Taiwanese instruments, writing lyrics rooted in local history, politics, and mythology. And they're arguably Taiwan's most internationally recognized metal band. Nowadays, the scene is even richer. There are still bands who play more traditional kinds of metal, like...
There's traditional metal?
Yeah, there's traditional metal,
Okay.
like thrash metal, death metal. These are just in your face, straight up, there's not really much experimentation. It's just, if it isn't broken, it doesn't need to be fixed. Kind of that mentality, right? But nowadays, there's everything, there are more experimental bands. There are bands who kind of mix kind of old classical styles of metal, and then they incorporate like pop elements from Mando pop, Japan pop. There's a more broad, diverse range of styles.
Now, earlier we spoke with Frank Chu, who was with the band's second round. He talked about how he got his start and what drives him.
We are formed maybe 14 years ago, so that's 2011. So at the beginning, we have only 3 people. Me, the drummer, and the vocalist. But now, this year, we have 5 people in the group. Yeah, our band is metal band, but, the genre of these 5 people is very different. For example, I play jazz fusion, some jazzy themes, and some rock and funk. Yeah, and our guitarist play like 80s rock, like Skid Row, Guns N' Roses, that kind of band. And our vocalists sing heavy metal, like black metal, that kind of stuff. And our bassist play ACG, it's like Japan anime music. So it's very fast and complex.
How popular is metal music in Taiwan? And why do you think if it is popular, why do you think it is popular here?
Actually, we don't think heavy metal is popular in Taiwan. We are the minority,
You have bands like Flesh Juicer, and you've got bands like Chthonic.
Yes, I know. Yeah.
They have become quite iconic within the industry. Yes.
Yeah, we can say that. Yeah, sure. But they still are the minority, I think. Yeah.
So if it's not very popular, what do you think drives death metal in Taiwan then?
Maybe more than people suffer from overwork time. maybe some bullshit from politicians. So many things we are not satisfied about our government doing. So
you'd say it's an outlet for like frustration, for example.
Frustrations and corruptions also. Yeah. So the more frustration we have, the more
angry. The more angry.
Yeah, the more angry we have, the more songs we produce.
Okay.
Does the government support metal music in Taiwan, or do they leave you guys alone?
I don't think so. Not really. Yeah, because the financial support from our government is very limited. So that's why we still are the minority in Taiwan now. The popular music is always pop, like electrical music, that kind of stuff. Very popular in Taiwan. I think it's about 90% above market share in Taiwan. So yeah, we still are the minority. Yeah.
Support from the government has come from an unexpected place. Now, it might not be financial, but the government has put death metal on a pedestal of sorts. This week sees the hosting of Formosa Finland Fest. That's a death metal festival which takes place in Finland. Joining us now to talk about that is Jere Tala, who is deputy representative at the Finland Trade Center in Taiwan. So we look at the lineup of activities for this year's Taiwan Culture in Europe 2025 initiative, and we're looking at a very disparate range of activities, right? Classical music concerts in Austria, which is a little bit more of my wheelhouse. We're looking at exchanges between Prague and Taipei from the National Palace Museum. Then we have Formosa Finland Fest, which is not exactly arts and culture in a way that might be traditionally experienced. Why is that traditional for Finland?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, well, first of all, I think Finland is probably one of the easiest places on earth to introduce a death metal or any heavy metal festival. I mean, heavy metal is essentially part of our cultural DNA, and this makes it a perfect opportunity to organize a event such as this one.
Okay, can you explain why you say that it's part of your DNA, and how do you think this festival of this nature is going to be received in Finland?
Yes, first of all, I think Finland has the highest number of metal bands per capita in the world. We have thousands and thousands of different kind of metal bands, and of course there's a lot of different subgenres within the metal. And for us, the metal is definitely not a niche. It's a mainstream music. You hear it everywhere. We have obviously, just like in Taiwan, we have lots of music festivals, and in the music festivals there's always all kind of metal bands. But we also have dedicated metal festivals, several of them. So to have this Formosa Finland Fest is nothing, I mean, out of ordinary, I would say. What makes it special, of course, is that in this case, the bands are from Taiwan.
Can you tell us about just this love of metal? Why is it so popular, and how do you think Formosa Finland Fest might be able to tell Taiwan's story in a way that a more traditional arts and culture festival might not?
Yeah, I think first of all, I have nothing against these traditional arts and cultural festivals. I think those are also in the right time, in the right place, but maybe a bit safe way to introduce Taiwan to the world. And I think in Finland's case, it's really appropriate that we have something like this, and especially now when we have our the new representative Freddie Lim based in Finland. So it's really a perfect opportunity and moment for things like that. But back to your question, I think Finland has a long tradition of storytelling that is dark, maybe mythological, emotional. We have lots of forests, dark winters. We have had struggles in our history, while we are now a thriving democracy. We have a long resilience. So metal has maybe become a modern expression of that kind of thing. It's emotional, intense, but at the same time intellectual way of expressing ourselves. So yeah, I think this kind of gives a unique opportunity that Formosa Finland Fest is not representing Taiwan through the traditional culture, like the indigenous music or museum exhibitions, but a shared emotional register. It's gives a kind of new angle of Taiwan to the Finnish people. And in Finland, of course, everybody knows Taiwan from the semiconductor, we know TSMCs, all the chips. Unfortunately, also the tension at the Taiwan Strait. But what Finns don't know about Taiwan is this kind of culture, and maybe the everyday life expressing through music.
I know you've mentioned very briefly about what Finn's general perceptions on Taiwan are. Can you go into a little bit more detail about this and how you feel the Formosa Finland Fest could enhance this or could change this, you know?
Yeah, I think again it's a new thing, and it addresses maybe a different portion of people in Finland. Whereas if you have these traditional music, classical music or museum exhibitions, you have certain type of people who would be interested and participate. Whereas when you have a festival like this, the audience is completely different, I would say. And this is the right way of addressing the younger generation to know about Taiwan. But in case of metal music in Finland, it's definitely not only for the younger generation. It's throughout all people of my age, their children, their grandchildren are joining. So it's a great way of them to learn about Taiwan.
Okay, now do you see music like this as a much more, I would say, effective avenue of exchange between Taiwan and Finland? I mean, there's traditional diplomacy, there's traditional culture and arts, but do you see venues like this, alternative forms of culture and diplomacy, as paving the way for more opportunities of exchange between Taiwan and not just Finland, but greater Europe on the whole?
Absolutely, yeah. You have to be open for different types of exchange, and this is just one of them. So in Finland and Taiwan's case, we already enjoy a very warm relation, especially in the areas such as technology, innovation, education, and democracy, of course. But this kind of cultural exchange deepens the understanding in a way that politics or economics just alone cannot. So it definitely reaches and expands the understanding between the two countries.
You were listening to ICRT's Jake Ingram, Frank Chu of Second Round, and Jere Tala, Deputy Representative at Finland Trade Center in Taiwan. I'm Hope Go. Thank you for tuning in.
Control aggression! It's control of the corrupt!